Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our case study on manuscript evaluation. Today, we'll be using SuperGrok to help us assess a fictional book. First, I need to provide SuperGrok with a detailed prompt outlining what we want from the evaluation. I have our comprehensive manuscript evaluation prompt ready here. This details the structure and criteria for the report. It covers consistency, accuracy, marketability, chapter analysis, and scoring. I'm just copying the entire text now. And now I'll paste this full prompt into SuperGrok. There's the prompt, clearly outlining the sections needed for the evaluation of our fictional book. Next, I'll attach the manuscript itself. I'll click Upload a File, navigate to the desktop into our case study folder, and select The Door in the Locker.docx, our fictional manuscript. With the manuscript attached to our detailed prompt, let's send it to SuperGrok and let it begin processing. SuperGrok is now working on it, analyzing both the prompt's instructions and the content of the attached fictional book. And here it starts. It's generating the manuscript evaluation report for The Door in the Locker. We can see the introduction being drafted, followed by the chapter evaluations beginning with Chapter 1. Just taking a quick look at the start of the output. The AI is continuing to build the report in Markdown, following all the criteria we set out in the prompt for this fictional work. It will go through each chapter, assessing consistency, accuracy, marketability, and then provide an overall assessment and recommendations. And you can see the attached file, The Door in the Locker.docx, is listed with the prompt. We can even choose to show inline to verify the document content if needed. So, it's all set up to generate our evaluation. Hovering over the response shows those interaction options again. Now that we have the initial evaluation, let's take a closer look. I'm clicking on the Manuscript Evaluation Report to expand it again. Here's the full report. We can see the main title, Manuscript Evaluation Report, The Door in the Locker. Scrolling down, we get to the detailed Chapter Evaluations section. For Chapter 1, The Ordinary World, the AI has provided a summary, a consistency analysis with strengths and weaknesses, individual scores for consistency, accuracy, and marketability, leading to a total chapter score of 83 out of 100. This is really detailed feedback. As I scroll further, you can see similar in-depth evaluations for subsequent chapters, each with its own analysis and score. This continues until we reach the overall assessment for the entire manuscript. Here in the overall assessment, the AI summarizes the manuscript's overall strengths in areas like consistency, accuracy, and marketability. And, just as importantly, it highlights the overall weaknesses found throughout the manuscript. Next, we have market positioning. This section covers the target audience, genre, a look at the competitive landscape, and unique selling points for the book. And finally, the crucial overall score. Based on all the chapter evaluations, the manuscript receives an 80.5 out of 100, which SuperGrok has rounded to 81 out of 100. This gives a clear, quantifiable measure of its current quality. Following the score, there are final recommendations for overarching improvements and a conclusion that summarizes the manuscript's potential and next steps, reiterating its strengths and areas for revision. This report is incredibly useful. Now, let's see if SuperGrok can help us take the next step. I'm going back to the input field and typing a new prompt. I would like you to apply your recommendations to Chapter 1. Let's send that off. SuperGrok is now working to revise Chapter 1 based on the feedback it just generated. It confirms the request, and now it's preparing the revised Chapter 1, The Ordinary World. And here it is. This is the revised version of Chapter 1. As I scroll through, we can see the narrative text has been rewritten, hopefully incorporating the suggestions for improvement. What's really helpful is this explanation of revisions section below the rewritten chapter. It details exactly how the AI addressed the feedback. For consistency, it mentions a slower transition and improved world building. For accuracy, it talks about polished language and clarity. And for marketability, it highlights a stronger hook and deepened emotional stakes. This breakdown shows the direct application of the critique, making the revision process transparent and actionable. It explains, for example, how Casey's feeling of being invisible was added to slow the pace and provide context, and how the locker's hidden compartment was better integrated. This is excellent. I'm going to copy the revised Chapter 1 text by clicking the Copy Contents icon on that specific output. Now I'll open up Microsoft Word. I'm just using the search bar to find and launch it. Word is opening up, and in a new blank document, I'll paste the revised Chapter 1 we just copied from SuperGrok. There we have it, the revised text, ready to be reviewed or further edited. This allows us to easily take the AI's generated text and integrate it into our existing workflow, whether that's for further writing, sharing with collaborators, or keeping a record of the revisions, a really powerful way to iterate on creative work. We're back in the SuperGrok interface. We can still see the previous interaction, including the explanation of revisions for Chapter 1. I'm going to click into the input field at the bottom again. This time, I'll ask SuperGrok to continue the revision process. I'm typing, "I would like you to apply your recommendations to Chapter 2. Let's send that. SuperGrok acknowledges the new request and begins processing. It's now working on revising Chapter 2 based on the initial evaluation and recommendations for that specific chapter. And just like before, SuperGrok has generated revised Chapter 2, the call to adventure. We can see the rewritten narrative text appearing in the main window. I'll scroll through this revised Chapter 2. The AI has rewritten the chapter, aiming to incorporate the feedback from the initial evaluation. Below the text, SuperGrok again provides an explanation of revisions, detailing improvements to consistency, accuracy, and marketability, with specific examples like clarifying realm rules and portal mechanics. It's a helpful breakdown of the applied changes. I'll copy this revised Chapter 2 now. Now, I'll switch back to our Microsoft Word document, which still contains the revised Chapter 1. I'm going to go to the Insert tab in Word, and I'll click on Page Break to start Chapter 2 on a new page. Then, I'll simply paste the revised Chapter 2 text that we copied from SuperGrok. Now we have both revised chapters neatly organized in our document. This demonstrates a continuous workflow, getting feedback, applying revisions chapter by chapter, and compiling the improved manuscript. Let's return to SuperGrok one more time. Back in the SuperGrok interface, I'll click into the input field and type our next request. I would like you to apply your recommendations to Chapter 3, and I'll hit Send. SuperGrok is now processing this request, getting ready to revise Chapter 3 based on the initial evaluation. This iterative process allows for focused improvement on each part of the manuscript. Okay, we're now looking at the revised Chapter 11 on screen. In the input field, I'm typing, "I would like you to apply your recommendations to Chapter 12, sending that to SuperGrok. And here's revised Chapter 12, Resurrection and Return with the Elixir, with its explanation of revisions below. Scrolling through the explanation, it highlights changes to consistency, accuracy, and marketability, like character continuity and refined portal mechanics. Looks like solid final revisions. Copying this revised Chapter 12. Back to our Word document, I'll insert another page break and paste in the revised Chapter 12. Now all chapters are revised. Time to save this fully revised manuscript. Clicking Save As, navigating to the desktop and into our case study folder. I'll name this Revise the Door in the Locker.docx. Clicking Save, the revised document is saved. User scrolls in Word. Okay, the revised manuscript is ready. Now back to SuperGrok, starting a fresh chat. This clears the previous conversation. Opening Notepad again for the original comprehensive manuscript evaluation prompt. Selecting and copying this entire original prompt. We'll use the same criteria on the revised manuscript. Back in SuperGrok, pasting the prompt. Now attaching the manuscript we just saved. Clicking Attach and Upload a file. Navigating to the Case Study folder and selecting Revised the Door in the Locker.docx. The revised document is attached to our original prompt. Sending it off. SuperGrok is now evaluating the entire revised manuscript. This will show the impact of the revisions. Let's see the new evaluation. Here's the revised evaluation report for The Door in the Locker. This is the manuscript evaluation report. We start with the introduction, a summary of this fictional book and evaluation goals. Next, chapter evaluations, each chapter analyzed for consistency, accuracy, and marketability, with scores, covering all 12 chapters of this work. Then the overall manuscript evaluation, highlighting overall strengths, overall weaknesses, and its market positioning. The overall score for the manuscript is 84 out of 100. We then provide final recommendations for improving this fictional story. And the report wraps up with the conclusion, final thoughts, and next steps for the book. A complete overview of the fictional book's assessment.